Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. I am your host, Kai McEwen, joined by the rest of the three-man weave crew, Jim Root and Matt Cox. If you're not familiar with the show, you ought to be. We go through the college basketball slate, focusing on the Wednesday and Thursday games, maybe a touch of the weekend, but you can get that elsewhere, I'm sure, from the wonderful folks at Action Network. Fellas, last week, we started off, as we always do, with our Moneyline Specials. Our live dog of the week is what we call our section. And we did pretty well. Army came through for us, beating Siena outright in overtime. Cash,
what? Let's go, troops.
Cash for Jim and Kai. Hooray, hurrah. But the other teams we picked, hey, they covered. If you bet them on the spread, you did well. Not me, though. I took Air Force against Portland. Did not work out. But Jim and Matt both took Delaware State. They covered against Columbia. And then Matthew Cox, your Missouri State Bears covered against BYU. Congratulations, man.
State. Thank you. Proud child offspring of two Missouri State alumnuses. Go Bears.
Go Bears. Jim, we have some good options for this week as well. I will say, though, the matchups are kind of tricky with the MTEs going on. Your Mauis, your PK85s, your Battle for Atlantises. And that last one is where I want to start off. Let me pitch this at you. Butler plus 12 per Ken Palm.
Sell me.
We don't know the actual. We don't know the actual spread quite yet, but they play Tennessee, a very dangerous team, one that we really like this year. But remember, Tennessee dropped one to Colorado, and Jim, we think this Butler team might be underrated.
Oh, they are definitely underrated, Kai. I will say it strongly. These Bulldogs they're still outside the top 100 in a couple of the computer rankings, and that's crazy. They're nowhere near that. They've become, Matt, we talked about, kind of a trustworthy favorite. They've blown out some really bad teams. That's not how I thought about them in the past, but they've been really solid this year. Now against Tennessee, if it's 12, I mean, it's crazy. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be like 10 or 9. Yeah. But there still might be value on the money line here. Manny Bates is a dominant shot blocker in the interior. Tennessee may or may not have Uros Plavsic back, their big towering center. Without him, they're a little bit thin up front. They have to kind of go small. I think there's a decent chance that Butler competes here, Matthew. I don't know if they're going to win, but I will almost certainly bet them to cover. And so for that reason, I'll make them a live dog here.
Yeah, I'm going to split my bet between money line, spread. I just think this Tennessee thing, they smashed Florida Gulf Coast after they lost to Colorado. I don't know if all of their issues are resolved just because they beat a team they should beat in an angry spot. So I'm hoping maybe those cracks start to reappear here in Paradise. And I think Butler's a team that can exploit it as well as any kind of underrated power conference team, as well coached as they are, as well connected as they play. I know they're not deep. They're also a little bit banged up themselves, but they got enough bodies to compete in this game. So I'm looking at like a plus 300, 3-1 price or better for money line. That's kind of my target range. We'll see where the line opens up. But
well, Matt, how about Lipscomb going to Chattanooga? A little offshoot from an NTE here. You love Nuga. We do love Dan Earl, coach of Chattanooga. He is a genius, but Lipscomb's very experienced. They have no slouch at the head coaching position themselves with Lenny Acuff, and they beat Belmont, took Notre Dame to the wire. But you don't buy the Lipscomb Bisons.
I'm taking Nuga. No, I'm taking Nuga here. I think Nuga. I'm taking Nuga. I know they're not at full strength right now, but Dan Earl's like maybe the best coach in college basketball right now that no one knows about. Okay, and up there. He's really
if you put
awesome.
that no one knows about, I'll allow it.
Yeah,
that's
a big sorry, I cut you off. That's my fault, Matthew.
And I think Lipscomb's a little bit overrated at this point. I think Earl's a master game deviser, and he'll have a good game plan to stop Mr. Asajula up front.
Jim,
spread him out a little bit.
Lipscomb's got a little more versatility to their scoring repertoire this year. It's not just Asajula and Prayers anymore, which is rather impressive. But man, yeah, Chattanooga is so solid. Not a team I'm looking to fade in any way, and losing outright as a big dog. I got to stay away from here, Kai. This one's not for me.
Fair enough, guys. And Jim, I'll just give you a 3-pack here. One's a short dog, so I'm kind of not really counting this one, but I'm looking at Jacksonville against Campbell. They're going to be a short dog against the Camels. Jacksonville's very tough. I think they could win this game outright pretty easily. I will be on this spread, guaranteed.
Yeah, that game's going to have like 57 possessions, right?
Yes,
it's going to be hideous.
Absolutely hideous. Not the trash man pick of the week. We will get to that one. But Jim, how about a twofer on Thursday? Army plus 10 per Ken Palm against Princeton. This game's in London, and the ground troops did cover for us and went out right against Siena.
Hey, we send our ground troops abroad. They're always solid.
There you go.
Always solid.
Especially
they're
against
as well traveled as any group.
That's right. And Siena, Jim, as well, the team Army beat outright. They're playing Florida State. And I'm just writing down, hey, why not? Why not fade Florida State right now?
They are dysfunctional, those Seminoles. They did manage to get a win over Mercer, but I remain unconvinced that they're fixed or even remotely fixed. I'm with you. Siena is absolutely worth a shot here. And the troops probably are too. Army and Princeton's going to be a really erratic, Matt, you love a high variance underdog here. There's going to be a ton of threes taken in that game. Princeton is not any sort of scary defensive team. I think Army can get theirs. I think these are both worth a shot. Kai, Siena, I like more though. Matt, where do you stand?
I like the dog because I think it correlates with the under, and I love the under. I like it for one reason only. The venue that this game is at, Copper Box Arena, it looks like
the old Copper Box,
like a dystopian jail cell from the outside, and the lighting in the inside from the picture I'm looking at looks really weird. I'm sure they have some steel rims or something. Like there's something off of this game, not just the fact that it's in London, which is weird, and it would itself body clock's probably off. I'm just all over the under. If you like the under, you typically lean the dog, so I'm all in on leaning the dog as well.
I'll throw one thing out, Matt. There were 4 games played in Dublin, Ireland as part of the ASUN Mac Challenge, and 3 of them went over, and the 4th one, I think, stayed under by a point. So I don't know if it's defenses don't travel, but we'll see. We'll see.
That's true. You kind of forget, if you're sluggish, that also applies on defense, which can also go both ways. Yeah.
Okay, so quick recap for the live dog of the week. I am going to be on Siena and Army, taking 2 shots here. Jim, what are you on?
I will also be on Siena. I think you talked me into at least taking a small piece of Army. I'll be on Butler to cover. Again, I don't think they'll win outright, but I think that number will be too big. And hey, that means you have a chance of winning outright. So up to you if you want to split and put on the money line there. This is a short dog too, Kai, because Villanova's banged up, but I think Iowa State beats Villanova in their MTE. Villanova's not figured out offensively. They don't have a point guard, and they're taking on an Iowa State team who's looked really good right now. Their defense is swarming. Matt, we talked about that kind of the way they are defensively intimidating. That's really good in the non-con, and they were awesome. They were the best non-con team in the country last year. I think the Cyclones will be a nice short dog winner there.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Baby Arch at point guard. Already getting a ton of shade as being the worst power conference point guard in America, and then you have to go against that Iowa State pressure. I do wish you luck, young buck. Kai, I'm taking Butler cover money line split and Army to cover, but I'm too soft to take money line. So sorry.
Yes, you are. Next, Blowout City is the next section we're going to do. Hey, last week, the boys did pretty good. We were 3 for 3, 3-0 on our calling out of our blowouts. UAB beat Presbyterian by 31. Marquette beat LIU by 37, and Alabama, Matt's special, beat Jacksonville State by 42. The tide extended late there. Guys, a couple I'm looking at this week on Wednesday. North Florida is going to Kentucky. That spread is around 26 per KenPom. Little Rock is going to Matt's alma mater, Indiana, spread around 31. And McNeese State is going to Baylor, spread around 34. Boy, I think all 3 could be blowouts. But Matt, I will say North Florida did impress me a little bit against Duquesne.
Yeah, and Kentucky hasn't impressed us, right? Everyone's talking about how Calipari is doing this weird throw whatever at the wall and see what sticks with his rotations. I mean, I think the athleticism and size mismatch could make this a bloodbath, but of the options here, I think Indiana is by far the best one. Baylor's good because Baylor's Baylor, but Little Rock's a disaster. God, this team's awful. They play fast. They try and kind of speed you up. It's just ripe for a complete beatdown. Maybe you worry about maybe a sleepy spot, Jim, for any of these guys, but I just think Indiana is built to play well as a large favorite this season, which has not been true in years past.
I thought there was a chance of a sleepy spot for Indiana after the win at Xavier, and they beat Miami of Ohio by 30.
It started sleepy in the first 10 minutes, but then it just went on a flurry and then was done. Yeah.
Yep. They've got a great home environment. I think even during Thanksgiving week, they'll get a solid crowd there because IU being good is so exciting for the Hoosier faithful. Little Rock is terrible, like you said. I think they're going to be very easily blown out. And IU's deep. So even when they are playing their second unit, they're 11 through 13 scholarship guys. They're pretty touted incoming freshmen or guys that were touted in the past.
Trying to prove themselves too. Yes.
So the foot doesn't come off the pedal for them. I like IU a ton here, Kai.
Yeah, I do too. I will say Baylor, McNeese gets blown out a lot over the past couple of years in these non-con games, and Baylor can certainly do it. I also just really wanted a quick mention. Duke is playing Oregon State in the
Yeah,
PK
I'm 100%
85.
betting this. 100%.
Yeah, Duke, Oregon State around 20 is the spread. No way, it'll be higher. They're going to destroy the Beavers, unfortunately, for the Oregon State fans.
Duke's been awesome as a
Duke
big
will-
favorite this year, except against
Yeah.
Bellarmine, who is this weird, tough to figure out offense, slows it down, shortens the game. 58 possessions, they were able to limit that to. Oregon State won't be able to do that. I think, Matt, that has blowout written all over it.
Duke will have like double the fans that Oregon State has there, despite it being in Oregon State's backyard.
Yeah.
And both of you will be in attendance. And since you're backing Duke,
Just
I
me.
expect you to be cheering loud. It's just Kai. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Jim. Not to.
Wow,
Will
you
not be
just
there.
gloating that I'm not going and rubbing it in, making
Hey,
me
I'm with
acknowledge
you.
it?
I'm stuck. I'm stuck back in the miserable winter of Chicago as well. So Kai, please bring
Yes.
us a winner with the Devils.
Okay, sure. And now we get to the power game of the week. Touch on the marquee matchups we're looking at this week. Now, we don't know the Maui matchups yet for Wednesday. So caveat here, guys. Okay, we're recording this in the past. Give us a break. But on Thursday, we know the opening matchups for PK 85, and that's where we're going to focus here. Matt, Alabama and Michigan State is probably the best game of the day. Alabama looks unstoppable. Sparty better than advertised. You excited about this one? Who you got?
Very excited, even more excited about Alabama because I'm not all the way a believer in the Michigan State start, which people have sort of raised an eyebrows like, oh, Michigan State, decent. The Kentucky game, I don't really give them a ton of credit for that. I think we've sort of know that Kentucky is a major work in progress.
I'll give some credit. Will you?
Okay,
some.
I'll give partial. I'll give partial credit. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm giving all the credit and extra credit to Alabama for what they've done so far. And it's been nothing short of magnificent. They're playing defense. They're kind of re-embodying this physical toughness brand of basketball on top of running up and down, playing blazing fast, shooting, getting to the rim. The rim and three rate, it's obviously through the roof as it always will be under Oates. I just think Alabama's a different tier than Michigan State talent-wise. I think they have a different gear, and that'll come to pass in this tilt on the neutral up there in the Pac Northwest, Kai.
Yep, I'm on the Crimson Tide with you, Matt. I'm so impressed with them so far. They went on the road to South Alabama, a talented in-state mid-major that's looking to get their shots in at Big Brother, and they demolished them. Completely took care of business. They're number one in the country in 2-point percentage defense.
Wow.
Which is, like, to me, the ultimate sustainable defensive stat. Like, if you were taking away the rim, making shots really difficult on opponents, that carries forward. I'm so impressed with Alabama, and we just haven't seen them take on a power conference foe yet, so they don't have like the national love. This will be their coming out party against a team that we've seen be really tough so far, and to have Alabama take care of business against them like I think they will, then that'll really open people's eyes. So Tide for me, Kai.
Yeah, major egg on my face for my preseason doubt of Alabama so far. Like Denny's Grand Slam breakfast, egg on my face currently. I agree for the Tide. Two more here. Florida plays Xavier. That spread is about a pick, most likely. Both teams very much in need of signature wins. And then UConn plays Oregon. KenPom's got this UConn -4. Honestly, I don't know how the Duck fans are going to travel to Portland. They probably should travel a lot, but I know Pac-12 fans, Jim, they don't really exist. So I don't know what to think about this one.
I think there'll be a decent amount of Duck faithful. Can I talk Florida Xavier? Is that all right?
Talk both, baby. Yeah, I just want to tee you with both up there.
Beautiful. Florida Xavier, two teams we were high on preseason because of coaching changes. We thought big time upgrades. We like the rosters in both. I have a hard time cracking this one, but Matt, I think I lean towards Xavier. Florida has been solid, but not great. They lost at home to Florida Atlantic. They were down at halftime big to that terrible Florida State team we just made fun of in Live Dog of the Week. They're not fully figured out yet. They're still sorting out rotations, that kind of thing. Xavier, I thought actually looked really good against Indiana. They didn't win, but they had a banged up Colby Jones. We didn't even know if he was going to play until the day of, and they hung with them, haymaker for haymaker with the Hoosiers. I kind of like Xavier here. I just think they're a little more proven, a little more ready. Do you have a take on that one, Matt, or the other matchup that Kai alluded to?
I have a stronger UConn lean.
Okay.
I'd stay away from the Florida Xavier thing. I still stubbornly believe in Florida, even though it hasn't looked as great as we thought to start so far. Oregon getting both their guards back, Hawkins and other guy.
Oregon.
They have two guards.
UConn.
UConn just put, the two guys just get Jordan Hawkins and insert other guard just came back. I'm blanking on his name.
Andre
Jackson, thank you. I mean, UConn hasn't really had their backcourt all season. And I think they can compete with Oregon up front. I mean, Oregon's bigs are monstrously long. And Dante looks like a different beast this year. Finally, he's kind of hit that next level. But UConn's got Sonogo and a lot of length and size up front too. So they can combat that and a slight edge to UConn's guards now that they're healthy. So I like the Huskies.
Yeah, I lean towards Xavier like Jim, and I agree on UConn. They're quietly killing everybody. They haven't played the best competition, but they're smoking guys, and they have 3 or 4 guys out of the lineup. So I kind of agree with you on the Huskies here. Still not a huge believer in Dan Hurley, if I'm being honest. But Oregon has not impressed me yet.
The under in Oregon UConn. We've seen UConn play pretty fast so far. I think maybe that slows a bit against a power conference team, and Oregon's going to zone them. One of the few teams that can really control their defensive possession length is our zone teams, and Oregon's is really, really slow. I think they'll pump the brakes on some of UConn's up-tempo action, and that game will slow to a crawl and a big man brawl in the paint.
Like that angle. And with that, we move to mid-major game of the week. Just 2 with the MTEs, the nature of them. We have more power marquee matchups. But on Wednesday, we have a great one with Kent State going to Charleston. KenPom's got it around a pick. Boy, Charleston, Jim, has at-large aspirations. It's conceivable they make the field as an at-large, and it's also feasible for Kent State because they do have road games against, drumroll, Gonzaga and Houston this year. Crazier things have happened. Who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, you steal one of those and suddenly you're feeling really good.
Yeah.
Kai, I think I kind of like Kent State here. Charleston might have a bit of a, not hangover, but they won their tournament with an awesome crowd backing them throughout the Charleston Classic. First time that they've ever won it as the home team. But I don't know if that going to carry into holiday week as maybe people got hyped for that tournament and then went home or aren't going to be around as much. And Kent State is really, really good.
Very good.
Their backcourt's super solid. They had a couple injuries early, but they got healthy and they're right back full strength now. Matt, I like the Golden Flashes, but if you want to bet this, wait, because the market has bet Charleston 3 to 5 points in every single game. So I think they will probably take money again here, and you can get a little better value on Kent State if you wait.
Jim, me and my market mob will be at the gates waiting to hammer Charleston. So once we're done with, once we're picking off our value, you're welcome to come back in. But yeah, I will be on Charleston here again. I agree with you. It's kind of a dead spot. I like Kent State. Not even a great matchup really for Charleston. Kent State's got a more physicality, and that could be a kryptonite for the Cougars. But I just still believe there's a lot of upside left in this Charleston team. It's deep. It's a lot more talented than meets the eye. I think the Pat Kelsey's ingenuity is him finding guys that are just perfect fits for his system, untapped value in the D2 landscape. They're really good. They're a lot better than the roster looks. I'm still in on the Charleston thing. So we're coming for the doors, baby.
And then Friday, we have San Francisco at Davidson. This one is more of a higher mid-major matchup, we should say. 2 teams that are still kind of figuring it out, I think. Davidson, Jim, a lot of turnover. Obviously, San Francisco, a lot of turnover as well. Just quick thoughts on this game from both of you. I don't even know who I lean. This is a toss-up for me.
I am not a fan of this Davidson version. I just haven't loved what I've seen. They've had a couple solid performances. It's not like they're 0 for against the spread or anything, but their defense is abysmal. They have no athleticism. And last year, I think they covered for that by being a little longer on the wings. They were really smart. They packed it in, forced you to shoot over the top. Now they're just kind of getting beat off the bounce, and they can't keep you out of the lane. I have some real worries with them. And San Francisco, they've got talent, man. They've got Tyrell Roberts came from Washington State. Marcus Williams, the old Mountain West freshman of the year. He was at Texas A&M last year. Khalil Shabazz is an NCAA tournament guard. We saw him help San Francisco get there last year, and their front court is deep. I just think San Francisco's better, and Davidson isn't. They haven't solved it yet with their coaching change, Matthew.
I agree. I'm torn on this one, to be honest. Like, I look at San Francisco, what they've done so far, and they've played some tough teams, like kind of feisty trip to the dentist type teams. I still believe in their talent. I believe they haven't quite hit their stride yet. There's a little more room to fly for the Dons. Well coached, still under the Todd Golden tree. Chris Krlupson, like you said, there's talent there. There's depth. I think there's actually more size up front, which is shocking to think in a San Francisco versus Wichita matchup. But I do like Dons.
There's a revenge angle for Davidson because they lost out in San Francisco last year to the Dons, maybe.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Or did Davidson win that game?
No, the Dons got him because they played him at Steph Curry at the
that's right. It was the Steph Curry game. Yep.
The not so neutral game.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll lean Davidson, but I'm skeptical of both teams. All right, trash man pick of the week. Hey, last week's was actually kind of efficient. Elon, North Dakota, only 66 possessions, but over 1.1 points per possession for each team. Not as trashy as we expected. This week, we got a real doozy. We got Mississippi Valley State, arguably the worst team in the country, traveling to Air Force. It's a 16-point spread, and it's featuring two of the worst offenses in the country. Mississippi Valley State, 359th, Air Force, 309th per KenPom, and 65 possessions is the projection here, Matt. This is a trash pick of the week.
Yeah, it's gross. I kind of think Mississippi Valley State competes here. Like, they're not going to be out athleticized. It's not a word, but it is now by Air Force. And I think they just can maybe have one of those games where, as you just witnessed as Mizzou fans, Terry Collins goes completely ballistic. They got a couple other guys that, I'm not going to say they have talent. It's Mississippi Valley State, but they have guys that can get hot. And this is sort of a matchup where they'll be comfortable playing against Air Force's defense, and maybe they can't get hot. And I think 16 is just a big number for an Air Force team that isn't electric offensively and that plays really slow.
Yeah, and Mississippi Valley State's playing slow. George Ivory has totally slowed them down, tried to hit the brakes, and we've seen year after year the Lindsey Hunter teams get smashed because they try to play 75 possession games with teams with way better talent, and at least they're playing smarter. I don't know if that team can solve the matchup zone that Joe Scott's going to throw at them or if they can defend Princeton. But in a game that's going to be as slow as I expect it to be, Kai, I would lean towards the dog. Also, like Matt mentioned, Air Force, not a big favorite crusher in my perception of them.
Yeah, man, I'm torn. Air Force just beat Upstate by 27. I didn't even know they could do that. But they are hurt a little bit. I guess I'd lean Mississippi Valley. I probably won't bet it. And again, folks, don't watch this game. Just don't watch this game. Okay, we're going to end this section with our spotlight section, where we try to highlight trends or stuff of that ilk around college basketball. This week's trend is over kings and under darlings. That's right. Teams that are really good going over the point total and teams that are really good going under the point total. There are two teams in college basketball currently that are 5-0 to the over. They are Fairleigh Dickinson, who's playing faster this season, perhaps faster than expected under their new coach, and Baylor. The defense has not been quite as sharp as expected. Currently also, Jim, playing at the fastest tempo ever under Scott Drew. Surprised?
Yeah, and they're so guard heavy. I guess it makes sense. I am a little surprised by it, just because it's so out of the ordinary for them. But they're playing to their strengths, and that's kind of what we think of in a good coach who adapts his system to the roster at hand. His best lineups have 2 6'1" guards out there with Flagler and Cryer running around burying triples. Keontae George is a difference maker, especially in transition. I think that's relatively sustainable with Baylor. Matt, I'm sure you'll harp on their defensive foibles as being a big part of it too. I know you're skeptical of the Bears defensively, but I buy that. And Fairleigh Dickinson, that's a small team. They brought like a 5'8" and a 5'9" guard from Division II level. I'm not surprised that they're bad defensively, but potent on offense. I think that's also going to carry forward.
Yeah, I just don't love Baylor's defense as like the dynamite, destructive perimeter pressure version that we've seen the last 2 years. It's good. It's just not great. So I think they have a really high standard, and the market is baking in their defense as like a top 10, top 20 unit. And I think it's trending closer to like, top 50-ish, I guess.
Two more notable undefeated over teams, both 4-0, the MAC Fireballs of Toledo and UAB. And I believe Toledo continued that trend today against East Carolina. Had to check the total score on that one. And then Oakland, a team that's basically, hey, we don't defend and we love to score. So I would say no surprises there for those three teams. Nodding in agreement are Jim and Matt.
I sure am. Yes. Yeah. They fit the bill, Kai. They fit the bill. It's not.
They do.
Usually, when I hunt for over or under teams, it's very tempo based because I find pace to be more predictive. But there's always a few teams that are so bad defensively and so much more focused on the offense that you can find overs. And that's like exactly what I think of with Oakland. That team has not shown any interest in playing defense this year, even though they're playing zones sometimes defensively to try to slow teams down. Doesn't matter. They're going to give up points.
Points indeed. But these teams do not give up points, or rather they don't score points, or they just don't play very fast. These are the under darlings of college basketball. There are 5 teams in the 0-5 club. That is 5-0 to the under. Minnesota, no Jamison battle for the first few games here, clearly has affected their scoring. Boise State, one of the grossest teams to watch right now, Matt. Lockdown defense, slow pace, bad offense. Wyoming, without their center, Graham Ike, maybe a bit counterintuitive. Utah, one of Matt and Jim's favorite teams, although we're going to talk about them maybe a little bit more because their opponents have been, I think, a little bit misleading. And then Mississippi State under Chris Jans, new leadership there, has them playing at a top 10 defense currently per KenPom. Matt, those 5 teams, pick one out and tell me about.
Mississippi State's my favorite of this bunch. Like if you want to back one of these teams in the next 3 to 4 games, just blindly betting their unders, I think that's the one I would choose. They just have a lot more of momentum from defense is awesome. Tempo is slow, but actually maybe even inflated by the fact they just played Marquette, for example. They played a South Dakota game before that. They held them to 66, 60 possessions. I think they're going to crawl even more. Look at James's history. They're not shooting a ton of threes this year because they don't have many shooters on that roster. So I think offensively, they're going to struggle to score. Against Marquette, their offense is really cramped. It's heavily execution reliant. I just go down the line. There's a lot of things working in Mississippi State's favor from an under perspective. And as they play higher, competitive, closer games, I think that'll even compress the pace more. So Mississippi State unders are probably a good look going forward.
I was super impressed with how they slowed down Marquette. Like Marquette wants to go, go, go. And that was a 66 possession game that had a bunch of possessions in the final minute where they like traded back and forth. It was even slower than that from a normalized sense of it. Kai, I'll leave Utah to you. Mm-hmm. Wyoming is the one that's really strange to me. I thought they would hit the gas without Ike, and they kind of tried to. Their possession length was really short for a while, but then their MTE, they played really slow. And recently, Hunter Maldonado hit his head on the ground, I think, and has a concussion issue. Didn't play most of their last game, and they can't score without him and Graham Ike out an extended period of time. I know they've got those 3 Pac-12 transfers, but those guys aren't very good. They weren't good. They weren't good in the Pac-12. They just kind of had the shiny USC/UCLA label coming into the Mountain West. And that team is really, really dire scoring the basketball right now, not living up to preseason expectations at all. And I think, especially if Maldo continues to be out for a while, then they're going to be under City.
Under City, maybe even a fade target as well. Yeah, I will end it on Utah here. They've played Bakersfield, Idaho State, and Sam Houston, 3 of the slowest offensive teams in the country, also pretty good at slogging games up. They've played LIU, who is one of the worst offenses in the country and all-around worst teams. And they've played Georgia Tech, who is also very tough on offense. And
they play zone, they slow you down.
Defense,
Yeah, it's gross. Yep.
So they're a little misleading, I think, because Utah does play a little quicker on offense. However, they also slow teams down on defense. We'll see if that trend continues forward. I tend to think it'll bounce back. So maybe be cautious on Utah and not just blindly follow that trend.
I'll say final lesson here. If you're listening to this Wednesday morning when it's out, today you've got Mississippi State against Utah.
Yeah.
That game could be disgusting, slow, very defense heavy, a lot of bigs, very little shooting on either side of the ball. That might be worth the hunting the auto under bet there.
Yeah, I would endorse that as well. Speaking of, just a final bet recap before we sign off. I'm taking Army and Siena on the money line. I am going to ride with the Tide in PK 85 against Michigan State. And I'm taking Davidson, the Wildcats, against San Francisco in one of our mid-major games of the week. Those are my picks. Jim, going to you.
Taking Butler to cover against Tennessee. Up to you if you want to sprinkle the money line. I think Siena is worth the money line against Florida State. Taking that. Also going to be on Iowa State against Villanova in their MTE. I think that's a good wager. I'm going to participate in the fade Oregon State, fade the bad Pac-12 with the first game of the PK 85. I think Duke blows them out. I'm with Kai on Alabama in that game. I think they take down Michigan State. And then in the mid-major game of the week, it sounds like Matt and I are head-to-head. I'll be on the Golden Flashes of Charleston, assuming it gets up to
Kent State.
Charleston.
Right.
Kent State. Yep. Assuming it gets up to like 3.5 or 4 after it gets bet.
I'll nix Charleston just because I feel like it's going to end up being like Charleston -3 or 4 given the market. I just don't really want to endorse that at a bad number from my angle. Now, if you're a Jim believer and Jim backer, then ride with the Flashes. Kai, official plays for me. Butler, money line and against the number. I'm going to take Army, the troops, over across the pond against the number, and then also Duke to smash Oregon State. So, boom.
Love it. Folks, thank you for joining us on the Big Bets on Campus podcast. Again, thanks to BetMGM. Good luck on your bets this week, and we will see you next week.